Wrapping up a weekend at the Manning Passing Academy in Louisiana. We caught up with Alabama quarterback Ty Simpson and Arkansas quarterback Taylen Green. What can we expect out of them in 2025? Locked On SEC starts right now.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what's up, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. It's great to have you guys along on today's show. We're going to get you caught up with a lot of the recruiting news from over the weekend. We had Alabama, Georgia, and Tennessee picking up some big-time recruits the last couple of days. We'll also bring you those interviews with Ty Simpson and Talon Green. But I'm Chris Gordy. Thanks for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Shout out to our everydayers. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's over at FanDuel.com. All right, let's dive into it. As yes, we were over at the Manning Passing Academy. Archie Manning and his sons putting on the Manning Passing Academy since 1996. It always allows high school quarterbacks to get some schooling from some of the top quarterbacks across the country, with a lot of the biggest names in college football coming in as camp counselors. And in addition, you get Peyton and Eli out there coaching the kids. Cooper Manning also involved. And some of the biggest names in college football were out there, including Austin Simmons from Ole Miss, Blake Shapen from Mississippi State, Arch Manning, of course, along with Talon Green of Arkansas, Ty Simpson of Alabama, Lenora Sellers from South Carolina. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And the event just wrapped up on Sunday with the last day of camp taking place. But one of the quarterbacks we were able to catch up with was Ty Simpson, and great to see him working with the kids. And, you kind of come across some of the quarterbacks where they, working individually with the kids, you get to see, see some of the leadership skills start to come out. And was very impressed with what we saw out of Ty Simpson working with some of the kids. And of course, a guy who has not earned the starting job yet for Alabama, but seems to be sitting in the driver's seat. Of course, everything we heard from head coach Kalen DeBoer and new offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb coming out of the spring is that Ty is in the driver's seat, the presumed starter this season in Tuscaloosa. So I figured we would bring you a couple minutes with Ty Simpson. Here was our conversation with Alabama quarterback Ty Simpson.
Catching up with Ty Simpson, and what's this offseason been like for you, man? I'm sure it's been pretty wild.
Yeah, it's been hard for sure. Last year left a bad taste in our mouths, and we're just excited to get out there and try it again. We all got a chip on our shoulder. We feel like this has been one of the hardest off seasons, but also the best off season out of my 4 years at the University of Alabama.
Obviously, quarterback battle rages on, but you feel pretty good about your position. What are the things you've worked on individually in your game this offseason?
I just worked on my leadership, being the oldest guy in the room, and learning from the guys before me like Jalen and Bryce, and just kind of, putting that in Keelan and Austin's ear. Just trying to be the best guy I can be, and making sure I go 1-0, because if I don't go 1-0, I can't go 2-0. So I'm just making sure that I can be the best guy I can be, and doing whatever I can to make sure our team wins.
There's been a lot of talk about Coach Grubb coming in this offseason. What do you like about him so far and the wrinkles he's bringing to that offense?
Yeah, Coach Grubb's the man. He's super smart. Brought a lot of stuff from the NFL, and just his intensity every day. He's the same guy every day, and that's what he challenges us quarterbacks to be. No highs and no lows, but understand that you need to be the same guy and come out and be metal. And what he means by that, just your breaking point and making sure that you come out every day and be the strongest guy. So I'm very excited to see what we do during the season, and just his intensity that he brings each and every week.
Some good weapons back at wide receiver. Obviously, Ryan Williams took the league by storm last year, and I know he's excited to take his game to the next level. But what have you seen out of this receiving corps so far?
Yeah, I think it's by far one of the best receiving corps in the nation, if not the best. We got Ryan coming back, who is hungrier, healthier, and honestly older. And then you got one of my good friends from high school, Isaiah Horton, who transferred in from Miami, who I have a great connection with. And then you have guys returning like Jeremy Bernard, who was a key player for us last year. And then you have new guys who are emerging like Rico Scott, Derek Meadows, and Latsier Brooks, who are very dynamic. We can put them anywhere. So Coach Shep does a great job of those guys of getting them dialed in, and I'm very looking forward to seeing what they do during the season, because they've progressed so much, even from the first time that we got our hands on them in January.
How did the offensive line look for you? Some leaders coming back on that side. It looks like that'll be a true strength for you guys.
Yeah, no doubt. We're going to be able to run the ball, and then being able to run the ball is going to help us be able to pass the ball. You got Caden Proctor, the left tackle, who is a 3-year starter, who is just bigger, stronger, more mature now, understands his role. You got an All-American like Parker Brailsford coming back, who this is his second year in the SEC, and he's a big-time player for us. And you got Jaden Roberts at the right guard, and then Cam Dewberry, Gino, and then Wilkin Formby and Olas. Those guys, getting in and out of the lineup, man. It's a good group of guys. Not only a good group, but they're also very close knit, and that's what makes it so good.
Talk a little bit about the defense. I've been told that secondaries looked really good this offseason, going to be even better than they were last year. What have you seen out of them, and have they gotten the best of you this offseason?
Yeah, no, definitely. It's by far one of the best secondaries in the nation, and they're going to get you some days. You got guys like Damani Jackson, Keon Sab, Bray Hubbard, Dijon Lee, a true freshman who is it looks outstanding, and then guys coming up like Dre Kirkpatrick. You got Deshaun Jones at the nickel. Those guys have worked so hard, and they carry a lot of weight in our defense just because we ask them to do a lot. And so going against those guys every day helped me, when I go against teams in the fall, just because the coverages that they play and how they play it is very, very hard. And so being able to go against guys like that who are physical on the line and disguised so wearing super smart, it just is incredible, and it makes our offense better overall.
How different has it been with Coach DeBoer? A year in now, feels like it's kind of settled in his program now, right? For those of you who came in under Saban, but it feels like this is Coach DeBoer's team now, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a weird transition last year from Coach Saban to Coach DeBoer. Nobody really knew what to expect, and I felt like there was a lot of just a lot of animosity and a lot of questions when it came to just what to do and what to expect. And I feel like this year we all understand hey, we're going to do it Coach DeBoer's way. Coach Saban, he's here, but Coach DeBoer is our guy. He's not. Coach Saban isn't around as much as he used to be, and so I think we're all a lot more bought in than we were last year, and we know what to expect, and that's the biggest thing, and that's what I challenged everybody to do. Coming up in this offseason, that have no regrets, and to make sure that everybody's bought in and not looking towards the future or looking back, and go take it one day at a time and the task at hand, and be where your feet are.
What's Ty Simpson doing when he's not playing football?
Playing with Legos or playing video games.
What video game?
I'm a Call of Duty guy, but Legos is my go-to.
Is the video game, have you seen the ratings yet in the new NCAA? Do they have it right?
Yeah, no, not at all. So we're going to have to deal with that. But I'll play it, but I'll be a 90 by the end of the year. Last
thing before you guys open on the road at Florida State, their quarterback made some comments this past week. You pay attention to that at all, or is it just, look, week one's week one, man? Yeah,
I don't really look into that at all. I didn't really know what he said, but, that's something that the defense needs to take care of, and I'm sure they will, and I'm going to just do my job and make sure that I score points. So it'll be a great game. It'll be a hot one. I'm looking forward to, Doak Campbell Stadium.
Ty, best of luck, man. Really appreciate it, man.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you. Thank you.
All right, that again, our conversation with Alabama quarterback Ty Simpson. Did have another note here as far as Alabama goes, and this is Kalen DeBoer and his staff related. Former Alabama defensive lineman Jaheim Otis shared some thoughts on his exit from Tuscaloosa. Did an interview with On3's Pete Nakos, and Otis was a former top 100 recruit. Initially remained with Alabama from that transition from Nick Saban to Kalen DeBoer, but decided to enter the portal in October of last year. And Otis telling On3, I left Alabama because I came in with Coach Saban. I took it to heart. That was one of my biggest dreams, to play in college football for Coach Nick Saban and win a ring. He said, quote, the new staff wasn't for me. And once I found out that they didn't mess with me, I knew it was time to get up and get out of there. Otis played significant snaps during his first 2 seasons at Alabama, had 55 tackles from 2022 through 2023, 1.5 sacks, 2 pass deflections. Was an elite recruit for Alabama. Once upon a time was the number 12 defensive lineman in the country in the class of 2022. But He will have 2 seasons of eligibility up at Colorado, so we'll see what happens with him. But just an interesting take from a guy who left Alabama, and you're wondering why. Just a really big-time talented player. We'll see what he does up there at Colorado. All right, thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Coming up next, we will hear from Arkansas quarterback Taylen Green as he prepares for another year in the SEC, leading the Razorbacks up there in Fayetteville. That's coming your way here in just a second. Hey, but first, summer sports are in full swing, and whether you're all about baseball under the lights, golf on the green, or some high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the place to make every game even more exciting. And if you're already following the action anyway, why not make it a little bit more thrilling with FanDuel? You can get in on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. And, of course, you can use FanDuel to track all your favorite matchups. The app keeps it fresh with daily new promotions and fun ways to bet. It's easy to use, fast to pay out, and makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. Look, baseball, there's tons of games happening each and every game. Whether you're placing a same-game parlay or watching a bet ride into the 9th inning, FanDuel is going to make it feel like you are part of the action. If you're new to FanDuel, if you've never signed up before, go check them out at FanDuel.com. New customers can bet just $5 today, and you can get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Just open the FanDuel app today. Visit FanDuel.com to get started and signed up. And again, be ready to go for the start of college football season. They got a lot of those week 1 lines up there for you already. Some over-under win totals, Heisman odds, all of it up there for you at FanDuel.com. Go check them out today. All right, rolling along here, Locked On SEC, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. Thank you guys for making us your first listen. We transition from the Alabama Crimson Tide over to the Arkansas Razorbacks as Sam Pittman back for another year out there at Arkansas, and he's got his quarterback back. Talon Green, the transfer from Boise State, came over last offseason, had a nice year in year 1 in the SEC, but some mistakes to clean up, some interceptions, some turnovers that he could certainly clean up. And we were able to catch up with Talon for a couple minutes at the Manning Passing Academy, talking a number of things about some of the new weapons that have come in on offense. Of course, some wide receivers and Omega Blake and Courtney Crutchfield, among others. I'm a big fan of Braylon Russell, the running back who was a freshman last year. He'll head into his sophomore season. They've retooled that offensive line led by Fernando Carmona at left guard, but Corey Robinson, Caden Kittler coming in. And, of course, the defense. A lot of regular names back, from Xavier Sori to Jaheim Singletary. There's a lot of big names back on that Arkansas defense. So excited to see what they're going to do this year. In year 2 under Bobby Petrino, we talked to Talon about his comfortability. Obviously, when we talked to him on Locked On SEC a year ago, he told us, that he was hoping, to get to play for Bobby Petrino, and thought that he was going to bring out a lot of his game. And talking with Talon, over the weekend, he said it was more than what he expected and what he was going to get and what Bobby Petrino was going to bring to his game. And so without further ado, here was a little bit of our conversation with Arkansas quarterback Talon Green.
Catching up a little bit with Taylen Green here, and Talon, a year in the SEC, man. What's the biggest lessons you learned last year?
I would say the physicality, the hurdle, but definitely the physicality and what it means to be an SEC quarterback with social life and the fans and everything and social media, but really just the preparation. I have to get my body right, in the training room. Got a great training staff and strength staff too, and nutrition. Shout out to them. But also, get my mind right and knowing what to expect, coming into this year, and getting the film room, Petrino, and Coach Fishback, and just preparing like a pro, and that's what I've taken into this year in the offseason.
A little over a year ago, you told us how excited you were to get to work with Coach Petrino. Was it everything you were hoping for? And I got to think another year of continuity, you guys can only build from there, right?
Oh, it's more than what I expect. Every single day, we walk in to a meeting room, and it doesn't even feel like I'm in football. I feel like I'm in a classroom, just learning, just defensive fronts, linebacker alignments, safety rotation, corners, learning why, certain plays work for certain coverages, and learning checks, and just the freedom that he has. Like, he trusts me with the offense, and that's something, I appreciate and don't take for granted. So I'm always, got to make sure I'm on my P's and Q's. So.
Talk a little bit about some of the pieces you guys have back on offense. Some new receivers coming in. Excited about Braylon Russell and their run game, but what are you excited about on this offense?
Really everything. We got, old line's looking really good. We got some transfers in too. Like you said, Braylon Russell. We got Rodney Hill. We got Mike Washington at running back. They're looking really, really good, and just their knowledge of not just running, but their pass pro too, and being a quarterback and the running backs knowing how to pass pro it's a really comfortable feeling. And I'll say, receivers, we got a whole new receiving core, but they're meshing well. They're always competing, always running full speed, and that's what I love. And you got Omega, you got Andy, you got Jalen, you got Ish, Braylon Sharp, Cam. I can go on and on, but they're really a tight group. And speaking with the tight ends too, they're really meshing well. With Rohan, you got I'm going mind blank right now. Jaden, you got Dre, but they're really meshing well. So I'm excited, and we just had like a pool party the other day, and that's like something we didn't do last year. But meshing well off the field too.
What's been the biggest message, I guess, for your game? Is it, kind of cut down those turnovers last year that, you kind of look back in your numbers and they were so good. It's like, even some of your losses were so close. Just clean up those mistakes, and man, the sky's the limit for you guys, right?
Yeah, definitely. Clean up the mistakes, and continuing to do what I do well, and fixing what I don't do well. And like you said, that's turnovers, cleaning up, being more productive on first down. And when we get in the third and long situations, sometimes don't force it. Sometimes you tuck in a run, or sometimes shake it out to the running back. So it's the little nuances, but me and Coach Petrino are in the film room and dialing it in. So that's what I'm excited about this year.
This is what I like to call list season. Everybody's putting out lists. Here's my top 10 SEC quarterbacks and all this. And you and Garrett Nussmeier are the two most seasoned returning quarterbacks in the SEC, and yet your name's down that list. One, it's a little disrespectful, but two, maybe you kind of like being off the radar a little bit and people kind of underestimating you?
Yeah, I love being underdog. That's what I strive, and I've always been counted out my whole life. People tell me I can't be a quarterback, can't be a starter, can't go D1. So it's something I'm used to, but I wouldn't have it any other way. It's all part of God's plan. So I'm gonna go there and prove myself right and prove them wrong, and that's the mentality I'm having. So.
You just went through your whole first season in the SEC as a starting quarterback. Austin Simmons is sitting next to you. If he said, "Hey, what's the biggest thing I got to know about being a full-time starter in the SEC?" What would you tell him?
I'll say the physicality. The physicality is definitely surprised me. Every single week it's a battle, it's a war. Whether that's of course in the trenches. But also linebackers and safeties, they're coming to, decleat, they're coming to, hit me. So that's why I would say definitely the physicality. Everybody talks about the speed, the speed of the game, but it is quicker. But, I would say definitely the physicality.
Taylen, thanks so much for the time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, again, that's Arkansas quarterback Talon Green there at the Manning Passing Academy. Thanks to him for taking some time out. And yeah, he's kind of one of the big unknowns this year, right? Like, if he is really good, Arkansas can be really good and can take that next step. And, perhaps maybe, the ceiling, we're talking 10-2 and potential playoff team for Arkansas. If everything goes well, that defense is going to have to be much better than they were. But if Talon continues to take that step up, remember, Bobby Petrino once had Lamar Jackson at Louisville, and Lamar Jackson became a Heisman Trophy winner. Not saying Talon can do that, but can he play some semblance of that, some clean football and come up big in some big spots this year? Certainly going to be fun to watch what Arkansas does. But we wish Talon the best of luck and appreciate him taking some time out for us. All right, still more to come here on Locked On SEC, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. We'll get you caught up with the weekend that was in SEC recruiting. That's coming your way here in just a second. All right, roll along here. Locked On SEC, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. And it was a busy weekend in recruiting in the SEC. So let's dive into it and get you guys caught up with the weekend that was in recruiting. We start off with the Alabama Crimson Tide. Is Kalen DeBoer, man. He has been doing some work this last week plus. First off, 5-star linebacker Xavier Griffin committed to Alabama, the 5-star linebacker committing Sunday afternoon over the likes of Texas and Ohio State. Massive recruiting win for the Alabama program. He's number 27 overall player, the number 2 linebacker in the nation for the class of 2026, the number 4 player from the state of Georgia. And being a Georgia native, beating out the Bulldogs and other top SEC programs, huge win for Kalen DeBoer. 6'3", 200 pounds, Xavier Griffin. And that puts Alabama now at 14 commitments, the number 10 class nationally, and still plenty of time to move up those rankings. Could they close with a top 5, perhaps top 3 recruiting class at Alabama? That would be massive for Kalen DeBoer. A few other commits they got over the last couple of days. 4-star running back Xavier Crowell goes by EJ, 5'11", 215 pounds, scored 61 touchdowns over the last 2 seasons of high school ball at Jackson High School in Jackson, Alabama. His commitment beefs up their running back room for 2026. And look, Florida was heavily in the mix, as well as Georgia and Texas and Florida State. So EJ Crowell heading to Alabama. They also picked up a commitment from 3-star linebacker Zay Hall. Had interest from schools like Virginia Tech and Memphis. So Kalen DeBoer really rounding out this recruiting class with some big-time athletes. And also a couple days ago, if you missed it, I had a big-time tight end in Max Sutter, 6'5", 230-pound pass catcher, one of the top 2026 recruits in the Midwest. So 4-star recruit in the 24/7 composite, top-ranked prospect from the state of Illinois, 6th-ranked tight end in next year's class. So Kalen DeBoer and Alabama doing some work. How about over at LSU? Brian Kelly, they're starting to get to work. Started with in-state athlete for the class of 2026, Desarian Ellis out of Franklin Parish High School in Winsboro, Louisiana. He was a quarterback in high school and 6'2", 175 pounds, 3-star athlete, number 34 athlete in the country. But LSU thinks he will translate to a defensive back, be coached by Corey Raymond there at LSU. So moves LSU back into the sitting there in the top 20 nationally in their recruiting rankings. Ellis is the 7th in-state prospect so far to commit to LSU. How about over at Kentucky? They picked up a big splash for the class of 2026. 4-star offensive lineman Tyreek Jemison, the highest-ranked offensive tackle in Kentucky's class so far. I told Sam Spiegelman of Rivals, they have a plan for me to be a franchise player at Kentucky. It's number 47 offensive tackle in the country from the state of Georgia. Chose Kentucky over the likes of Georgia Tech, North Carolina, Ole Miss. He's 6'5", 315 pounds, puts Kentucky at 12 commits so far. Messiah Tilson, safety, one of their big-time commits so far. All right, how about over Georgia? They've been doing some work. They beat out Texas for 4-star defensive back Chase Calicut. He was expected to commit to Texas, but instead he will head to Athens. Telling On 3 Sports is not a better program producing defensive backs than Georgia. Dog Nation, I am home. He's the number 13 safety in the country, the number 23 player from the state of Texas. Plays his high school ball in the Houston area, 6'3", 190 pounds. Chase Calicut heading to Georgia. Also, on Saturday, Bulldogs dipped into the state of Florida to pick up a defensive lineman named James Johnson, 6'2", 285 pounds, 4-star recruit, number 8 defensive lineman in the country, number 69 overall prospect. So nice pickup there in James Johnson for the Georgia Bulldogs. And Bulldogs have been very busy these past couple weeks. I believe that's 8 commitments since June 22nd. So 8 commits in just the past week for Georgia. Pretty good Kirby Smart so far, and they are nipping at the heels for the number 1 recruiting class in the country, which is still USC, but you got to think that they're making some moves there. All right. How about over at Oklahoma? They beat out Alabama and Colorado for a blue chip O-lineman in the class of 2026. How about Deacon Schmidt, 6'5", 320-pound interior lineman, announced his college commitment at a live ceremony at his school. Like we said, picked Oklahoma over the likes of Alabama and Colorado. 4-star prospect, the number 1 prospect from the state of Colorado, number 31 interior offensive lineman, number 371 overall recruit. That puts the Sooners at 14 commits so far for the class of 2026. They're into the top 40 and moving up as they get each commit. How about over at Tennessee? They double dipped on Saturday, picked up a couple of athletes in Zayden Anderson, an in-state 3-star prospect. Has made plays on both sides of the ball in high school, expected to be a defensive back for Josh Heupel. And then later Saturday evening, they went to the state of Texas to get a commitment from a quarterback, Legend Bay, B-E-Y, also a track and field sprinter, and threw for 1,400 yards, 13 touchdowns last year. His primary recruiter is Kelsey Pope, the wide receivers coach under Heupel. So assuming he will transition over to wide receiver. He's a 3-star athlete, according to the composite. But that put Tennessee at 13 commits over the weekend. But like I said, picked up Zayden Anderson, a 2-way star on the football field. Also added a pair of 3-star prospects as well, an edge, Kedrick Golston, an offensive lineman, Edward Baker. Baker's the number 94 interior lineman. Golston is the number 44 edge rusher. So some nice pickups there for Josh Heupel and company. So, look, recruiting has been hot and heavy these last couple of weeks. There's been a lot of SEC teams making moves. So we're just passing along those commitments as they come in. But certainly been a very active couple of weeks here for the class of 2026. A lot of people trying to get these deals done, whether it's through NIL ahead of the official enactment of the revenue sharing going through, where a lot of those deals are kind of verbally agreed to right now, but can still kind of get some NIL deals in under the last couple of days before we make that transition into the start of July. All right. Thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Appreciate Ty Simpson and Taylen Green for chatting with us. We'll have more of our college quarterback interviews throughout this week from the Manning Passing Academy. You'll hear from John Mateer, Oklahoma quarterback. You'll hear from Austin Simmons. Got a question or two into Garrett Nussmeier, LSU quarterback. Talked with Blake Shapen and Lenore Sellers. So all that is coming your way later this week on Locked On SEC. Keep it locked to us. And hey, for your second listen, you can check out our buddy Brian Smith with the Portal Show. Be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to the college football landscape. Find the Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. But for now, I'm Chris Gordy. You guys have a great day. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow right here on Locked On SEC.